you, but I must be honest, it's with mixed feelings that I'm doing this presentation. I was asked to do this based upon brother Baba Jim Clingman, who is having health challenges, is unable to make it here. But in his stay, I'm still willing, and hopefully you will gain something out of this. Words that are coming from him, his mission that he teaches about black and economic empowerment for black people. And also we'll look at some of the things that we have going on in Philadelphia through our Pennsylvania chapter. So the title of the presentation is The Primacy of Economic Empowerment for Blacks Collectively. So we'll go through an outline, first showing the relationship between economics and politics, as Sister Monica says, influencing public policy. We'll look at economic empowerment, utilizing as how it can be used as a tool for leaders. We'll give some definitions of such, and look at some solutions, and then further on push through to our current and future works, and then open up for discussion. So let's look at some of the words from Carter G. Woodson. It is unfortunate that such a large number of Negroes do not know any better than to stake their whole fortune on politics. History does not show that any race, especially a minority group, has ever solved an important problem by relying altogether on one thing. Certainly not by parking its political strength on one side of the fence because of empty promises. No people can go forward when the majority of those who know better have chosen to go backward. So we see some of our leaders, supposedly leaders, right? You named all these other organizations. They provide misleadership to our community, and they benefit off of really our plight. We push them forward, even though some of them may come from the civil rights era, or some may be new to the political arena, but we push them forward out of symbolism, really, right? And we don't get anything out of it. But the power, the strength is in the people. We unite and we practice politics as it should be practiced, then we can gain some momentum going forward in this country. And you see the picture of the pendulum here. I never realized, or just recently I realized that certain words are associated with one another. Words from physics, like inertia, momentum, and movement. How they could be associated with political strength and economic empowerment. At the beginning, to overcome that moment of inertia, that stillness, you need a mechanism to start. We think that this 1 million is that mechanism. And it is economics, it is fortifying our economic strength in our community that will begin that process where we can have movement of our people and gain and be able to change public policies. So we need organization. We think, again, it's the 1 million that will do it. The foundation of that is economic stability, economic infrastructure that will tie into making changes in the public policy, making changes in the political arena. Just last month, Jim Clingman wrote in his Black Economics column, Black people must work on being economically and politically empowered. In that order, or at least concurrently. We will not win as long as we stay on our present path, which is seeking political empowerment from an economically weak position. Leaning further, quotes Amos Winston saying, economic powerlessness means political powerlessness. The idea that the African American community can exercise effective power, political or otherwise, without simultaneously exercising economic power is a fantasy. It's time that we come into the reality of changing things, changing our conditions in this country. And we need economics at our foundation to do so. So who will survive in America? Those that will survive in America are the people with economic leverage. The people that create an agenda. And those that will negotiate their votes for their agenda and their economic leverage. Now, what does that sound like? Do you know a movement that's doing that? Do you know a movement that's capable of these things? That's 1 million. And that's why we're here today. To orient ourselves in such a light where we can be able to exercise our economic leverage and negotiate our votes to get the changes that we want. So there exists a dominant submissive relationship as we're laying out by the quotes that we've seen here from Amafika, Carter G. Woodson, and so forth. And there's a dominant submissive relation between politics and economics. We look at some examples in how economics comes into play. It's with lobbying. Right? It takes money to pay off lobbyists, really, to push forward your interests. You have big businesses, they do it all the time. The NRA, you have pharmaceutical companies. I work for a pharmaceutical company, and when I first saw it, it was very surprising that they had a political PAC. But then it just made sense. They have an interest, and they want to push forward policy in order to exact that interest. So I started getting emails at work about their political PAC and what they were pushing forward. And I thought to myself, it's got to be illegal. How are you sharing me to push forward your policy? But then I thought about it. I don't own that email account. That's their email account. That's their computer. They do whatever they want with it. But they were still basically had that ability, that leveraging power to influence even their workers. So they got a political PAC and also have this influence directly with people. So there's interest groups that are out here that are leveraging that power. We got to start thinking that we got to start playing chess, just as they are. If you take another example of, let's look at political campaign contributions. The LGBT community. You can see how they push forward what agenda that they have. They want to have marriage license in America. And there was 2 cases, let's say in Indiana, and Obama, of course, helped them out with that. There's 2 cases in Indiana and in Arkansas. How the governors in each state wanted to block that. They didn't want to give out the marriage license. So what did they do? They used their leveraging power for their dollars and put pressure on both the politicians, say they weren't going to contribute to campaigns, they would have voters come out to go against them, but they also, importantly, put pressure on Walmart. Walmart, who is based in Arkansas. So that company immediately said, well, man, we got all these thousands of community members in the LGBT going to be starting to boycott us or put pressure on us. So what did? They started making phone calls to those governors in each state. Don't you know that law, it wasn't pushed forward, that legislative proposal wasn't pushed forward anymore. So they used their leveraging power, and it came down to economics. You can look at the University of Missouri, those young people that look like us on that football team. They wanted to see change. They said, you know what, we're not playing in that bowl game. We're going to recognize the interest that we have. We're going to recognize the agenda that we have. So they assembled together in unity, and in response to a potential injustice, was going to practice an economic withdrawal. We have to do the same. We can do the same. We are doing the same. So let's look at some definitions of what economic empowerment is. How is it obtained? What are the benefits? And where do we start? And Clingman defines it such as economic empowerment simply means having the ability to determine our own financial possibilities, the wherewithal to make decisions that positively impact our economic well-being, and the capacity to improve your economic position in spite of resistance or adversity.
Amen.
So how can we obtain it? Some examples here is by increasing our savings, investing in the stock market, real estate, and also looking for business development and growth. Now, Baba G has brought up the fact that we have established a legal entity, the Black Economics Foundation. We can utilize this foundation to invest into profit-generating businesses and create new businesses. But importantly, we have so many black businesses around the country. We need to build conscious millionaires. And we believe, we know that the Black Economics Foundation can do such. We are taking our unity, taking our movement and our people, and having them invest into this foundation, right, with contributions to it, and then from that Black Economics Foundation, divest into profit-generating entities. So what are the benefits? Well, political power, economic foundation, and transgenerational wealth. A proverb I just want to read is, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children. And Baba West, he spoke on intergenerational transfers on our last training and gathering. It talked about how to spread our consciousness from our elders onto the young people. We saw detailed earlier, we have a social media group, and we're targeting that 18 to 40-year-old group. But it's also passing along the knowledge and the wherewithal that we may have on the economic arena as well. So we can garner momentum, build our businesses, properties that we may purchase, because like I said, Jim Clingman shows an example of real estate and such. We could sell and transfer properties and assets from one generation to the next, so that the next generation is not rebuilding again, fighting the same fight again. That 2016 doesn't look like 1966 again. But we have to transfer our knowledge and assets from generation to generation. So where do we start? By gaining education, knowledge, and understanding. So as Reggie pointed out last night, it's the thought process. Preparing ourselves and garnering correct thoughts to exact the objectives that we're looking for. Engaging entrepreneurship, understanding that it's going to take work. It's going to take work to get this movement pushed forward. And we got to save our dollars. But also importantly, we have to be wise consumers. Can't be conspicuous consumers. We're spending our money anyway. We have to regulate. We have to have infrastructure in place where our dollars can circulate within our communities. Next proverb that I wanted to read is from Proverbs 17:6. Of what use is money in the hands of a fool, since he has no desire to get wisdom? We must think about how we are spending our money, how we are doing that, and the impact that it can have. You can go to even persons in the Asian community. You may be a black man or a black woman that has a business. You want to conduct business with Chinese people. In most cases, they won't unless they really needed something from you. But they know that practicing cooperative economics within their community, it has a multiplier effect. That when their dollar circulates in their community, they gain strength. We have to see those examples and say that we can practice the same in our community and have done it. We have a history of doing Rosewood and Tulsa and other examples, Philadelphia. We have those examples. We're not doing anything that is different than what our history already dictates, as Brother Reggie had pointed out and read last night, with the Free African Society and other examples. We have already done that, and we have to put our foot back on the pedal and push forward yet again. So how do we get here? I want to show some examples of our current position and the social policies that have affected our people from Reconstruction on up to today. Today we experience police terrorism, cops shooting us down in the street, and we don't get any justice. Even unemployment rates are still remain high. And even after the recession, right before the recession to now, the unemployment has still more than doubled that of whites in our society. So that disparity is still ever growing. The first people put back to work was who? It wasn't us. So we were suffering for a longer period of time. And Dr. Claude points out that it is the structural unemployment that we must keep in mind. 40% of our community nationwide experience structural employment. That is the persons that are no longer counted in these typical unemployment rates, right? It's the people that no longer are searching for work, the people that don't get benefits, unemployment benefits any longer. They're cast out. They're out of the system now, right? Not being counted. But they still home. They're still jobless. There are still persons in our families like them, in our communities that we know, that we see, that are forgotten about. 40%. Now that's a high number. In the 1980s and 90s, we saw what we experienced the war on drugs. In the 80s, it was the crack cocaine that came into our communities to devastate our communities. This was a social policy decision that took place under Reagan to bring drugs into our communities. And we still fighting the remnants of it today. In the 1960s, we had a civil rights movement. But what happened to our leaders? People that was really started talking about economics, it was taken away from us. Right? When Martin switched it up, talking about economic withdrawal, and he was assassinated. Malcolm talking about fortifying our community, taken from us. And various other examples, right? People that they still have in prison, political prisoners, that you don't hear about. In the 1930s, well, it's looking just like today. Cops still killing us at high rates, targeting one group of people. After Reconstruction, when black people had businesses in our own business districts, what did we experience? Jim Crow laws being put into place, peonage to put us in prisons to work the chain gangs. We had Tulsa and Rosewood, which was burned down, as well as a group up in Philadelphia that wanted to establish their own movement, their own society there, were attacked, bombed in 1985. But what is the answer to all of this? Because this movement is about solutions. Well, it's like Garvey said, like Garvey pushed forward, it's unity. If we unite our people, we can overcome the social injustice that we experience throughout our history in this country. So how do we do such? First, let's look at some words from W.E.B. Du Bois. We must cooperate or we are lost. People who join in intelligent self-help can never be long ignored or mistreated. The mass of the Negroes must learn to patronize business enterprises conducted by our own race, even at some disadvantage. So even when it's hard, even when you gotta travel a mile down the road to the next neighborhood to buy from a black-owned business, we have to see the importance of such. We have to see the importance of such. We have to utilize self-help, just like with Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan in Philadelphia, and implemented the 1036 plan.
Right.
For 10 months, he had asked 50 people to put down $10 for 36 months. And on that Sunday, when he preached that sermon, he got over 200 people that signed up. So it became overwhelming. Like, wow, our people was ready. And they implemented, what did they do? They started a nonprofit organization that engaged and helped people with job training and made them ready for employment, right? But they also had a profit-generating entity as well, where they took those funds and they started divesting into the profit-generating companies and to build infrastructure within the neighborhood. Who does that sound like? Don't that sound like the 1 million?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get there? We must create relationships. Something that we're doing in Philadelphia is we're canvassing the city and identifying other like organizations that may be moving in a similar direction and practicing operational unity with those entities.
Yeah.
We must increase our savings and our investments. We must take what we do have and invest it into plans that benefit us, just like, again, Dr. Sullivan. We must build social structure and then build our communities. We must improve our education system, right, sister? Establish our African-centered schools. We can do such through the charter program, as Alafika has spoken about. We can do it the right way. We get good brothers, good teachers, good admins, and we're having schools that benefit our people. We know we don't get taught everything. Look in Texas now, we was talking about last night, they want to remove slavery, the whole idea of slavery from the textbooks. They trying to hide the truth, but we gotta recognize it. We gotta overcome it. We need a chess move. We must establish businesses and services within our community. After establishing businesses, we can begin to circulate the dollars within our community. As businesses are set up within your community, the property values begin to increase. With increased property values, the property taxes increase. With taxes, that goes pumped into what? The education system. And even if it is a charter, that money is still siphoned off because it's the children within that community. So we're still supporting our own schools. And with these things, we gain political action. It's the leveraging power. It's the unity. It's the relationships that we build. It's the education and teaching and passing on those thoughts, passing on empowerment from one generation to the next. And again, that unity, which we can utilize in the political arena. I want us to look at a short video from Dr. King.
I must confess that that dream that I had that day has a minute once turned into a nightmare. That we've got to come to see now that many of us didn't see too well during the last 10 years. That is that racism
not guilty
is still alive in American society, much more widespread.
broke his neck after Baltimore police.
A handful of protesters, a handful of criminals and thugs who...
Many in moments of anger, many in moments of deep bitterness, engage in riots. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention.
Mr. Free's death was a homicide.
The Negro was freed from the bondage of physical slavery.
The athletes marched onto a stage
And at the same time, the nation refused to give him land to make that freedom meaning. Freedom without land to cultivate was freedom and famine at the same time.
create jobs for our people.
Negro is to be free. He must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with the pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own emancipation process. I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out. need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country. Say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating His children right. We come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you're not glad to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. Our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from us. We mean business now, and we are determined to gain our rightful place in God's world.
I know.
We saw the words from King. That's not the King that's taught in school.
That's right.
After he met with Elijah, 1967, started talking a whole different mantra. 67 and 68 is a totally different King.
Right.
It was when I was at Morehouse that I learned that. All throughout high school, we hid it. I was in religion class, and the professor told us, y'all don't know King. So what you talking about, man? I know I have a dream, speech, and all like that. I was reciting it, this and that. You know what I mean? He sure opened our eyes. He said King had 2 regrets that he started to speak about. Is that the black people establishing a time during segregation to fortify our people before we went into integration, as well as not relying on the moderate white so much. They thought that because there was changes as far as us sitting at the same lunch counters, access. They thought that access was going to be the guarantor of social justice, but it's not. We're still fighting that fight today. We're still fighting that. We gotta have our economics right. Gotta have our foundation. As the video pointed out, we spend, one of the estimates is $1.3 trillion each year that come through our hands, does not get circulated back within the black community.
Right.
Our dollar stays in our community for hours. Compared to the Asian communities, the dollar switched their hand up to 18 times. Jewish community up about around that too. Whites around 8 times. It's on not even a day that it stays within our community. Now let's think about $1.3 trillion. And let's tie that into this movement. We're calling for what? 2%. 2% of all black people in America. Now, what's 2% of 1.3 trillion? That's what 0.2 times right to the left. $26 billion is what 2% is. So if we get our million, we have the economic leverage of $26 billion.
Teach, brother.
That's the type of power, that's the type of leverage that we're talking about in this movement. But we need that unity of government. We need that realization that Martin made and that Malcolm was talking about. Even in the voting scene, stop giving our votes to one political party. We gotta pin them against each other. We need chess moves in the political arena. We gotta have our agenda, but we got one. But 1 million has an agenda, and we will negotiate that agenda to get what we want. So I want to take a look at a real example that's currently happening in Flint. We know about the environmental crisis. It's about 100,000 people that's in Flint. About 60% of Flint residents are black. If you didn't know, each household is still paying $150 for this poisonous water that they can't even use. They're still paying $150 on average each month of water that is killing them. So they need a policy change. They need to no longer pay their water bills. But it's a policy change that must happen in order to exact that. So this is not just simply an environmental crisis. Let's take a new look at it as a financial crisis. Over a year, for $150 you paying each month, over a year that'd be $1,800. $1,800, let's say there's 20,000 households. That means on average there'd be about 3 people per household for that 60,000. So over a year, 20,000 households paying $1,800 would be $36 million. Now imagine if they had a policy change where we could take 60% of the residents to begin to save that money. Policy change, you no longer paying it. So with that money that you have, $150, instead of spending it, we increase what? Our savings and investing, as we pointed out, our savings. And we took that money and collectively pulled it together, it'd be $36 million. Ladies and gentlemen, change is on us.
All right.
We need to influence public policy to enable economic empowerment. And with economic empowerment, it goes back, changes in public policy, changes in the political arena. We have the power to do such, but we just need that unity. We need to put pressure where it needs to go on politicians and in that public arena. Now, some of the current work that we have going on in Philadelphia, again, I mentioned we're organized, we're practicing operational unity with community groups. So in January, we had an event where we invited out other organizations. Importantly, we had their leaders there who represent masses of people that they're leading in their own movements. So having them come together, begin to practice group economics with each other. So we asked each organization as collective, if we are able to participate in their own economic initiatives. So bringing people together and practicing, I believe Reggie brought up the SUSU model, right? Rotating credit, where each organization, it's like we sitting here, if all of us were representatives of organizations, that'd be about 14 of us. That'd be 14 organizations that we could go around and say, we'll start with your economic plans. Well, yours might cost $10,000. Amafika's might cost $100,000. We can pool our money together and invest it into the first option that can generate revenue. The profits from such can go back into the pool and we can invest it into the next. And we just keep rotating. And that model is what our people have been doing for generations. Nothing new. We just need to re-employ concepts that we already know, concepts that we've already been successful at. And we can do that today. Our next steps, we want to engage the Black church. We appreciate the work of Sister Monica and Black Church Outreach. We have that packet and we have been sharing it, starting to share it with churches to garner their support, to be able to practice in economic, cooperative economics. And even utilizing the CEG model, where what they do is those churches take their money and they put it all into one bank. They even have membership cards, like we have membership cards that's about to come out, right? So those individuals, as well as organizations that may be affiliated with the churches, they can go to those banks and say, I'm one of the members that's within the CEG. I want to take out a loan. Because if they start denying it, just like Wells Fargo and these other places that start redlining against us, we know that we have our power. Just like we took thousands of people and opened up those accounts at that bank, we can take those people and withdraw. And I guarantee you, somebody getting fired that day. It's gonna be one day you got thousands of accounts that just drop off because you ain't give somebody a $40,000 loan. Man, somebody getting fired. They don't need to push no papers on the floor, right?
That's right.
And going forward, we engage black businesses that we have in the areas, as well as African-centered schools. How everyone, imagine at the end of the year, or the end of the timeline, no matter how long it takes, don't matter. I have some dates here, but that don't matter. I'll wait it out. It's a long walk to freedom, but we gotta get there. There's also another economic initiative or proposal that we're working on. We have identified within the Southwest, within the area of Southwest Philadelphia, is a group that has gained the rights for, what do they call it, vending, street vending, right? So us partnering with that group, we wanted to establish, or like to establish, a storefront there for the street vending, right? And we picked this up last night for Reggie, a triangle concept. We can employ the connection that we have with black farmers. And I met a young lady who has some young adults that they are teaching through their nonprofit organization about urban farming. So these young people are learning the sales end as well as the farming techniques and operations and such. So there'll be two areas that they will want to go in: sales and or working on the farms themselves. And the other part of that triangle is the investment from our group, our 1 million. We can invest and open up the storefront. We have the connection again with the farmers and participating with the young people. So you have intergenerational transfer, building our communities, setting up economic development, practicing and engaging economic cooperativity amongst groups. Each part of this group doesn't have the whole, but each part is a part of the whole. It's the cooperativity that is key in an example just like this, and we can do such. In real estate, we see farming, we can do it in technology, etc., etc. And we need that cooperativity, we need that unity. So to summarize what we've engaged here today in this presentation about group economics, with the the special. Our group is a special people, and we can do special and great things. But the concepts that we need to keep in mind, we need to spread consciousness and build unity. We must patronize our own businesses. We must engage in economic withdrawal when we do face injustice.
Amen.
And as Jim Clingman points out, we don't need everybody.
That's
Only
right.
2%. We need that critical mass of people to step up. Those first responders. You know, if you had someone got sick right now, you don't need 100 doctors all around you. You don't need everybody to save you. You just need those first responders to make it to you and to help change your condition. We must invest in our future. We know it's going to take action.
All right.
We must leverage our dollars and our votes for the change that we're looking for. Special thanks to you, the audience, for your time. Of course, to Jim Clingman, my mentor. Love that brother. Such a great man. Appreciate all the knowledge that he spreads to our organization, to all our people throughout the country. The most recognized columnist in the country. Black man, writes it every week.
Every week.
You can see it in Black Enterprises, and you name the column, he's in it. Of course, to our 1 million campaign, and of course to our my chapter in Pennsylvania. I appreciate your time.
Man. Q&A.
I have a question I'd like to ask. You had mentioned the Susu concept, and we're doing this in PA.
Right.
And you were talking about businesses. I'd like you to let everyone know how can local chapters of the 1 million other states, how they can utilize the concept of the SUSU. And one of the other things, when he talks about this, remember, we use the SUSU concept as a way to get members to show up at the meetings also. Because if you have 5 or 6 people within the SUSU, part of the commitment is the week that somebody else's hand to your hand comes, you got to make sure that money gets there for the hand. So I just want you.
Exactly, and that was basically our beginnings of it. And my elders had shown me this concept because prior to joining this organization, I didn't know about it. So they explained it to me, the SUSU. I'm like, okay, at the end, I'm still gonna get the money back. Because each week we started off with $10. So in the first week, it may have been, let's say it's your hand to get. We would go around the room, everyone would give you $10. And each successive week, each person would give $10 to the next person. But it was a way of building trust. It was a way of building accountability within our group. Because as Reggie pointed out, we wanted members to make sure that they came to the meeting, be consistent. But there's also the trust factor there because you're giving funds to somebody else. And what this country has done, polluted our minds to think that we can't trust one another. So with that consciousness, that first thought, like we experienced last night, I'm so glad that Reggie went first last night because the beginning is thought. We gotta have the correct thought. And we gotta look at ourselves through trust. And we can expand this concept on to other businesses, right? As we said, we want to engage businesses. So they can practice the same thing. Let's take the hair care industry, right? It's hard for each salon, each black-owned business to sell their products at a lower cost than like a Walmart and other things. And even the Asian community is the ones that really regulate hair care products that we use, right? But if these black businesses practice the SUSU model, what they could do is buy in larger bulk. You had 100 beauty shops all within Philadelphia, all within South Florida, and they wanted to buy their beauty supplies. They could come together, pool their money together, and buy it in large bulk so that the price would drop. So they were able to save money if they practice collectively, if they practice cooperatively. And that's just one example of how we can leverage our unity together and invoke this SUSU model for businesses that we engage. And for those business owners, opportunity for them to save. But it's the vehicle through which is that unity.
And I will add what Marcus was saying. The SUSU model is so wonderful. As a matter of fact, if anybody picks up Jim Clingman's book, that information is in the book. And it's nothing new. It's an old traditional model. But like Marcus said, you can't do it unless you have a trust factor. So whoever's the box holder, the person holding the money for the group, you have to be able to trust them that they're going to distribute the money to people. That's key. And also, if you think about it, a lot of people who were doing that, say you had 20 people that were in a box, they call it in the Caribbean, they call it a box. African cultures, they call it a SUSU. Say you got $5,000 in your first hand, but you know that for like 12 other weeks, you're gonna have to put down whatever the money is, $100, whatever month. If you got $10,000 right here in one lump sum, that could help you pay off some debt, pay off some bills all at one time. But your commitment is still to pay your $100 allotment for how many weeks. So the hand's for 20 weeks. You still have to have that commitment. But it's a win-win because if you get a lump sum money, you don't have to wait for your taxes for the next year or anything. This is something that you can do something. You have $10,000 or $5,000. You can invest in yourself. You can start up a business if you want to do something. So we got to start thinking like that. And also another thing for what we're doing, we went kind of back and forth within our group about this whole model at the beginning because some people Marcus didn't really understand where we was coming from it, and we all had different ideas. But if you look at it for the state groups, say for example you had 10 people within your state group. You said for 5 weeks or 10 weeks you want to do a hand of $30, $50. You choose what you want to do. You can say at the end of it, I think at the beginning it's about empowering the group members. But then in the long run strategy is when every time your hand comes, you can take 10% and give it to national. So that's funding national. So just something for you, the state people to think about. That's just something that they could do. We're doing it as a test model to see how we work before we wanted to talk to everybody else about it.
Let me point out that one of the important things to keep in mind about the SUSU approach, or the box approach, as they call it in the Caribbean, is that those sorts of activities do not take place in a vacuum or just amongst any old group of people.
Yeah.
There has to be, I don't like to use the term, but I'm going to use it for illustration, an element of trust among the parties to the SUSU group. In other words, you're not going to trust people to take your money over a course of, say, 12 months if you think they may, whoever is the treasurer or the person who's holding the money may disappear. So you've got to have some reason to believe that the people that you're involved with and that you're contributing, investing your money with, are not going to do the wrong thing. That's why these comings together, these gatherings and developing a fellowship, getting to know each other and getting a sense and a feel for one another will enable you to feel more of a degree of comfort with whatever evolves out of this as strategies and tactics, including but not necessarily limited to something like the SUSU model. But we would be exercising in fancifulness if we were to just talk about this stuff and then think that black folks would be willing to do it, as little trust as we have for one another. See, these people have invested a lot of time and years and effort into cultivating mistrust and distrust amongst us. For us to overcome that, we've got to invest at least as much and an even more qualitative effort into restoring trust, or at least, like I like to say, beginning with reliability. If I know I can rely on you, it's not as important whether I can trust you or not, because reliance is different than trust. If I can rely on you, for example, if it's just that you are one of these people, that your word is your bond, I may not know whether I can trust you or not, but I know I can rely on you because you're so stubborn about the value of your word that you're going to do whatever you say you're going to do. But see, we have to be able to make and understand and appreciate the distinctions in those things. And then we work within the context of what we have. But that's the importance of understanding what we're building here. We're building camaraderie. You all see it, you all feel it, you all sense, especially those who've been here with us for more than one of these. And the kind of camaraderie that already exists amongst the group. We can laugh, we can talk, we can pick at each other. You know, not in a malicious way, but in a loving and affectionate way. When we build that kind of a foundation, then quite frankly, there's literally nothing we cannot do. Because we have the resources. Like the brother said, the amount of annual money the amount of money that flows through our hands annually lines up to, latest count, $1.3 trillion. There's nothing you can't do if you got that kind of money. And our share of it, our share at 22% would be about, we said 23 billion? $26 billion. Now what can't we do with $26 billion amongst a million or so folks who can rely on each other and are working towards the point where we begin to trust each other? Nothing that we can't do. Just keep that in mind. Any other questions or comments relative to Brother Marcus's presentation? One thing I want to say, can you just imagine if, say, Brother Anthony in Indianapolis picks up the phone and calls Brother Marcus, or he calls Brother Reg, who did the presentation last night on self-development, and say, I need you, brother, I need you to come to Indianapolis and do that presentation that you just did. All right, for a group of people that I want to pull together here. I want them to see that presentation, see the potential, etc. And that starts to happen all around the country. We got people in 36 states now. We have members in 36 states. And let's just say that we have to put Brother Marcus on the road to make his presentation. And we have to put Brother Reggie on the road to go make his presentation. And here you have 1 million conscious black voters and contributors, representatives traveling the country, spreading the gospel from different perspectives. You see, because you're going to hear other presentations today. And each one of these presentations represent a potential road trip for somebody. But the people in the 36 states have to be the ones to raise the funds, to pay the money, to bring the brother there, because we can't expect these brothers to pay out of their own pocket to travel. But if Brother Anthony says, all right, I've hustled together $1,000, which will cover round trip transportation for Brother Marcus, and we'll put him up with, you know, it doesn't have to be in a hotel, stay in somebody's house or something like that. But the point is, I got the money to finance Brother Marcus to come here and do that presentation. Now you've had people see and they begin the word, the name of the organization, the name of the movement is out there. And we do that flip-flopping around the country. You see, wherever and again, we're in 36 states, people. We're a national organization. We're a national movement, I should say. We're a national movement as we sit in here and talk today. We're a national movement with members, people who are watching this thing live, even as we are conducting it right now. So keep in mind what we are sitting on top of. Like that piece I read from the book last night about the wishing gate. Yeah. The brother thing got tired. He was sitting on the wishing gate. We're sitting on the wishing gate right here today. Yes, sir.
So I actually do have a question. Coming from Delray Beach, something that me and the new generation of board members are supposed to be coming up with the roots. We noticed that there are a lot of nonprofits all around doing their own small thing, but they're all falling short because they are trying to do major things. So one of our goals was to bring them together to collectively, well, it's hard to get everyone in, but we selected 5 that we all have the same idea of where we want to go. Mm-hmm. We're trying to bring them under in and start doing grants. Like in Palm Beach, there's a REAP grant. Gives each individual organization $5,000, up to $5,000 to do their individual projects. But you can actually pool all your projects together. REAP grant doesn't care, as long as that's what the money goes to. But to expand that, when you got your community organization, was there a presentation you had for them? Was the similar one?
Yeah, the similar one here as well. We had Jim Clingman Skype in.
Okay.
And laid out the foundation of group economics.
Okay.
So the person is, they're engaged in it's all such, and it's like a light going off. You know, when I talk to Jim Clingman, I always got a new light that go off in my head, but it really inspired the people. Just as you said, I mean, it seems like you guys are already engaging in those type of concepts that we're laying down here. It's about coming together, practicing more and demonstrating more cooperativity. You know, when I was in college, a simple example, but my first test I had was like one of my advanced classes in chemistry. First test, we all studied individually, got like C's on the test. So, didn't do too good. When we came together and said, we got to change this, we start studying together. Every test since then, we all got A's. And everybody finished the class with an A in the class. So we never had to be like that, the crabs in the barrel thinking that only one could go to the top. We all rose to the top. So even with those nonprofits, I guarantee they will all rise to the top because it's that cooperativity together, sharing of resources. And you gotta look at the multiplier effects, right? By building that trust, by building that cooperativity with one another, that translates down the road. So in the next event that you might have, you might not have a projector, you might not have some resource, you might not have personnel to do X, Y, and Z that you wanna do. Well, you call on the other group to actually do it. Mm-hmm. We share resources is more than just the money. Mm-hmm. It's about time, your commitment from people, persons to actually do the work. Those are all your resources that go into any entity, any initiative that you engage in.
Let me also comment on that, brother. Jim Clingman and I came to know of each other as a result of my having been told about something that Jim created some years ago called the Blackonomics $1 Million Club. The Blackonomics $1 Million Club. I urge each of you to go to Jim's site, Blackonomics, and Google or whatever you have to do, Black Economics $1 Million Club. The information is still there. The idea was, what he sought to do was to organize a group of 200,000 black folk around the country to become members of this club. And then his original concept was 5 times a year, they would identify a deserving local black community uplift entity, whether it was a school, a nonprofit organization, a community center, whatever it was, but something that was deserving of and in need of financial support. And then he would call upon the 200,000 members of the club to each send $5 to that chosen entity for that time. And let's say that the time would be those months that have a 5th Sunday. There happen to be 5 of those months in the year that have a 5th Sunday. So every one of those months, we're going to designate a group. So it could be very possible, for example, it'd be one of your groups. That particular time, they would get a check, or they would get a cumulative amount of money, $1 million. Then the next 5th Sunday, it would be another group. It may not be in your town. It may be in Indianapolis. And we designate that group to receive the benefits of the Black Economics $1 Million Club. Now, the Black Economics $1 Million Club is what has been expanded conceptually to be what we're now calling the 1 million conscious black voters and contributors. But we can still have the Black Economics $1 Million Club as a component of the 1 million conscious black voters and contributors. And we can revive that idea so that groups such as those in your community that are trying to work together may see a value, as the brother was saying, for themselves in becoming a part of this 1 million conscious black voters and contributors movement, because thereby they can participate in the Black Economics $1 Million Club. And Jim's concept of 5 times a year was an arbitrary one. We could do it once a month. You see, and it's not going to be painful to anybody. Who can't afford $5 at a shop? $5 5 times a year is $25. $5 12 times a year is $60. Who can't afford it? But the cumulative amount of what we can generate from numbers of people working collectively and cooperatively is humongous. Yes. We can finance every deserving black organization in every black community across America if we were to unify. That's why your concept talking about the unity as the foundation there is so important. But keep that in mind. You should go to Jim's website, blackonomics.com, and read up on the Black Economics $1 Million Club and catch the vision of what is possible for us to do in terms of reviving that idea. And then guess what happens? Somebody amongst us is going to have to take on the assignment to be the convener or the coordinator of the revival of the Black Economics $1 Million Club. And each time we put somebody or ask somebody to take charge of something, that is a leader. So we're developing our own leadership element, just as we're developing our own leader over there, our own leader here, our own leaders here. I hope y'all see what's happening. Minister Farrakhan ain't going to be the only one that is producing his own cadre of leaders across this country. Exactly. We're doing the same thing. Except that we don't have a hierarchical organization where things come from top down. Right. You know, what Jim and I are trying to do is, y'all going to see some things happen here later on this afternoon. You're going to see what we're trying to do. All right? We're trying to unload this thing on y'all. Right. We're not trying to get y'all to do any subservience of obeisance to us. We're trying to hurry up. Jim said, we talk all the time. We say, man, we want to go fishing before we make our transition. You know, turn this thing over to these younger folks and let them take this thing and run with it. And we sit back and just grin. I was watching the Sister Anita, when you were talking. I saw so much pride. She couldn't pry the grin off her face. Am I telling the truth? You might not even realize what you're doing. She was so proud of this young brother putting on that beautiful presentation. She just is sitting there, man, and just like you see sometimes these sisters, they just be rocking back and forth. The pride and the good feeling, man, that we can generate among ourselves for our own people.
There's nothing common to man that man cannot do. The only proof that you need that human beings can do a thing is that some human beings have already done it.
Yes, sir.
And as Sister Sojourner Truth said when they were talking about all these things about the women's suffrage movement and stuff, she said, well, ain't I as a woman? If humans can do it, ain't we human? So we can do it. And we're in the process of doing it as we speak.
I have
Yes, ma'am.
Because words and semantics are so vital, I ask that we not use the word can, we are. I ask this sincerely because everything that is being done is. It's not can, it's is, it's now. And I need this so much because I've got a 19-year-old that can't read. And I said, didn't read, I said, cannot read. Does not know how to use context clues. But seeing a room of men on a video, I can put this up. So if you men would please stop saying we can, but we are, I gotta tell you, I'm being selfish, I know I am, and I don't mind it.
Let me suggest that you do this, sister. Some folks in here know that I have a thing about using the term kids to refer to our children. And that was from a mother. The first day we opened our school, I was making reference to what all the great and wonderful things we're going to do for our kids. And she touched me gently on the arm. She said, Mr. Gay, please, let's start off on the right foot. And the right foot will be not referring to our children as baby goats. She said, let's never refer to them as kids because they're not baby goats. Let's refer to them as children, as students, or little people. To this day, I'm proud to say that I do not refer to black children as kids. And some folks who know me know I literally cringe when they do. Say that. My teacher read it. He said, don't call our children same way. You have to do the same thing I did. I became an agitator, didn't I? If people around the school talk about kids, and they say, where's Mr. G? Same thing. Don't hesitate to call us on that. Say, y'all now remember now. The sister asked y'all to say such and such rather than such and such. And
We
all
are
we're
going
going to do
to
is
eat.
smile and say
We are
amen.
going to eat. We are going to eat.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Sister Sandra actually had
Okay, she had a hand.
a question. She had-
I did. I
And then
had
you-
I don't know if you answered it when I stepped out, but I wanted to go back to the pot or the box. What do you say, susu? Okay, so I just want to get a clarification. So when the person is holding it, that's the person who's going to receive the money that time, correct?
No, how it works is you usually have a person who's, as Bob Abafika says, is the person who's holding the hands for everybody. They're like the box holder. So the way we're doing it, since we're all coming to the meeting to keep the commitment, we nominated Marcus to be the box holder. So we'll give them the money either to the person, but the way it should go is we're giving the money to the box holder. The box holder distributed the hand to whoever's hand is that week. That's how it works.
Okay, so when the person who gets the hand, are they supposed to spend it on their own needs?
Well, how we started it within our group is for the members. That's developing the membership, because if I'm coming into a meeting in the third week and I know I'm getting $100 from the group, that's $100 more than I expected to have that I could do something for myself. Okay. That encourages more activity within the group, because you're seeing the benefit that you have out of it and the benefit the other members can get out of it. But you can take the concept where if you have a hand of $20 each week and you have 15 members, 15 times 20, you multiply however you want to do it, the group can make a decision what they're going to do with their hand each week. Or you can make a decision whether you have a group project. Okay, my hand, I got $100. I'm going to take $20 and put it into a kitty or a pot over here for our local state group. and we're going to do X amount. We're going to do after we go through the 4 weeks or the 8 weeks. This is what we're going to do on a local level. Or you could say, hey, this is the money that we got out that we siphoned off of our hands each week. This is what we're going to do for the national. Because and I'll put this other way. We talked about thoughts last night. The stronger member you are makes this local state chapter stronger. The stronger the local state chapter is, the stronger the national chapter is going to be. Mm-hmm. So all is integral. It's all part of that triangle that we talked about last night.
Very good. Okay, Brother Anthony.
Yeah, I was basically wondering that will all of this, I know Sister said she put together the Black Church outreach package. Will we also have a community outreach package? Because I'm on the same accord as far as like small community centers becoming alliances with each other. And I was learning about the small business outreach package. You know, you got a lot of small businesses like barbershops, beauty salons, where they can always get in the vision. Like we said, we're looking for the talented 10. So the talented 10 is going to be exactly like people like ourselves. More like people that are small business owners, entrepreneurs, teachers, clergymen, you know, from that mindset. So I'm thinking about it like as far as like, will we continue to have these packages to reach those type of people that have the same mindset where you can like recruit them?
Watch this. Do we have it yet?
Yeah, so it's not as formalized as the Black Church outreach, but in practice, what we've done in Pennsylvania is we come up with templates. So it's like more of a communication template that we send to each organization, whether the community group, business that we're looking to engage.
Okay.
And then what we do, we take our delegates from our local chapter, and we'll have a sit down with the leaders of that organization. So if it's a business, it'd be like the CEO or the president or whatever, and we would lay out, this is what we believe in, this is our agenda, this is what the tenets of our organization. How do we overlap from what you're doing?
Okay.
So yeah, it's a conversation that we
Calls for a conference call.
Okay.
Between the Philadelphia group and you.
Okay.
To respond to any and every question you have, preparatory to you doing in Indianapolis what they're doing in Philadelphia. Okay.
And I think another important thing, based on your question, what you just said it too, when you're dealing with these other organizations, and we had this thing that we talked about locally in PA, you have to be sure that they kind of understand that they're getting something out of it. It's not you taking and getting what you want. It has to be a reciprocal type of arrangement. So you have to make that person feel, or that organization feel, like what they're trying to get out of their mission, that they're going to be able to accomplish it through us doing a joint venture, us working together. Exactly. I think that's important for us to understand when you're dealing one-on-one relationships with businesses, you have to make the other people feel, whether how you word it or how you say it, that they're getting something out of this for their best interests also. We have to look at it, how we say it in Pennsylvania is that we don't need to go beg anybody something. We're coming with something. So we just got to figure out what we could give to them. Not that what we could take from them, what are we giving to them? And if they don't want it, then we done our job, and we can move on to the next group of persons.
Okay, and getting back to that, because see, I might be more passionate about talking to somebody as far as like leadership development, but these brothers may be more better geared towards talking to them about business. So is these,
you mean in your locale?
Right, okay. Right. So are these like, are we going to put these on DVDs? Like, so say if I want to buy 100 DVDs. That's a contribution going back into the movement, but then I'm presenting it to the people, you know, say, I want you to look at this, come back and talk to me if you're interested, then I pass you on to the conference call.
Brother Donnie, what's the answer to this question?
Yes.
I'm the type of person that I'm not gonna beg you to do anything. I'm not gonna beg you to do anything. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. If you want this blessing, get this blessing. If not, then I'm gonna move on to the next one.
You just gave us an idea, but my tech guy
said, right. So yeah, I want 100 DVDs. Send me 100 DVDs. I'm gonna pass it out.
But like Sister Anita said, we gotta focus on the R.
Right. We are.
Right.
We are.
So
we doing.
I made a similar presentation. I told you that Jim Clingman had spoke through Skype. at the event in January, which I showed on the timeline, right? We already had a similar event like this at a church, inviting other organizations there. We actually recorded that. So our brother Bob Lott is a videographer in Philadelphia. That event was recorded. So as he prepares it, it can be made available.
See what you started?
I needed it. I told you so.
Okay, Brother Andre?
I just wanted to take a quick second. I want to, first of all, thank you for that presentation. It was spot on, very concise, very succinct. But I want to send special kudos and commend you and your Philadelphia team for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You guys are being very proactive. You guys are setting the pace for the movement in terms of the infrastructure. There are a lot of things that you guys are doing that we're watching because we want to replicate that. And I was talking to the DMV team. All of us as state leaders are encountering some challenges that I think are going to be commonplace to everybody. The beautiful thing about what you brothers and sisters are doing in Philadelphia is it's providing a vehicle to replicate those things throughout the country and eventually throughout the world. And it can solve a lot of things from increasing membership to helping members who are business owners or are trying to sharpen their skills. So I just wanted to tip my hat to you and say thank you for what you're doing because it's very helpful. And we don't want to recreate the wheel if it's successful in Philadelphia. We want to make sure we replicate that.
Let's do this. First of all, we should all thank Brother Marcus for an excellent presentation, and through him, of course, to Baba Jim as well. But let's take a break for lunch now, and then as soon as we come back from lunch, Sister Monica.
Too early.
Pardon? It's too early?
Too early.
Oh, I thought I heard you back here.
You can't listen to radio.
Get it, Reggie. It ain't 3 o'clock. It ain't 3 o'clock. Let's go get started till 3 o'clock. It's too early. Too early.
Okay, well, now let me ask you for guidance then, because I thought what you were saying was that they were you were on that case. Now, are you prepared to do your presentation now? Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to just keep on rolling.
I'm trying to get that spaghetti war.
And the next presentation is going to be our sister Monica, and she will tell you what her presentation is. And I see you all, I hope you all are realizing what's going on here. We're putting our future leaders on display in terms of what they're capable of doing. And these are test runs for them to hone their skills, because eventually we want them spreading out all around the country doing these and other kinds of presentations. And the rest of you, we would expect to be doing the same thing. And let me say to the Palm Beach County group, Sister Lori and your folks, y'all are hearing what the Philadelphia contingent, those brothers and sisters meet weekly in Philadelphia. They ain't playing. And they're doing some really good things, as you heard Brother Andre say. And the DMV, for those of you who don't know, is the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, so to speak. And they're doing some dynamite things. We can give those folks assignments or ask them to take on assignments and know those assignments are going to get done. We're cultivating local groups where we have strong state representatives and strong leaders to do the same or similar things other places around the country. Palm Beach County, of course, is my county of residence. And obviously I have a sort of a vested interest in my home county not being too far lagging the rest of these folks who are really beginning to carry this movement, forward and upward. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say to you and to Brother Lance and to Brother Benny and to Brother Harden, don't y'all let us fall too far. So as soon as you can convene your meeting with y'all hit the ground running.
So, okay, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.